Oh, hello, testing, testing. Okay. Um, I've just been working on the weapons, on the concept. So I'm a bit scatterbrained right now. But let me see what I'll do on stream today. And yeah, so the main weapons have had these abilities since forever. That is, the spear could attack multiple enemies in a row. The axe could attack adjacent enemies, and the hammer had a stun ability. And I removed all of that yesterday. Well, I just commented it out. It's less dramatic than it sounds. Because I want to replace it with something pretty similar, but better. And that is just the same thing, but a bit more focused. So let me open the code, and that's in game. And I have these, well, actually I started yesterday with these super abilities, but those go too far for now. So let's comment them out. And I'll probably go over them in one of the next streams. But they're not that important today. Today is the base ability day. The question is, well, the supers are basically the same thing, but I've since decided that they are not what I want exactly. And I think I only implemented the hammer super and the spear super. And yeah, so how the weapons are going to work going forward, and I'll have to implement them these steps one by one, because it has to feel right and it has to fit into the larger picture of the game, which isn't easy. So it takes time. But how it's going to work right now, the idea is that you have these weapons, and probably only axe, spear and hammer, and they will have special abilities, like I just said, with the spear attacking 2 enemies. The hammer will, so they all have a base ability, that's what I'm trying to say, on top of the just bump combat. If you bump into an enemy, you do damage, but then there's the base ability of the weapon that does something else. So spear is, for the 3rd time, attacking 2 enemies in a row. Axe is attacking in a T shape, and the hammer is doing double damage if you attack an enemy into an obstacle. Those are the base abilities as I have them right now. I'll have to try them out. I think well, no, I'll have to try them out to see if they feel right. They sound good on paper, but yeah. And that's what I'll do today. And then what you get in the game is that you can upgrade these weapons so that you get more movement patterns. So for the spear, for example, right now there's a charm in the game, and that charm... hey McNilly, how's it going? Nice to see you. And that charm increases the range of the spear, so you attack three enemies in a row instead of just 2. But I'll remove that charm and I'll make permanent upgrades for the items, and that you acquire through your run, and those will add new abilities. So for example, the spear, what you can unlock is that if you step towards an enemy, not bump into it, but just step towards it, you'll do damage. Or if an enemy steps towards you, it'll take damage if you have the spear. And so on and so on. Axe does not a T-shaped attack, but a O-shaped attack. And I'll have ideas for charging up attacks, which is just waiting a turn before you attack, but that would be also an upgrade. So that is the idea, but today is only the base. And yeah, let's try that out. And I actually can just... Okay, these two those 2 functions are not used. Actually, let's remove this as well. And yeah, that's for later date. And I can just add the abilities into the action, into the base action. So first of all, I'll probably remove the knife. Completely. But let's just, yeah, let's leave it in. It doesn't do any harm, but that'll go in the future. Okay, let's start with the spear. So this is the old ability that I commented out. And hit this second row every time. So I can just... God, what is this code? Hit the 3rd row, so I don't need that. Let's uncomment this and read what it does. So the normal attack is what you'd expect. I get the entity in front of the hero and then I attack it. But what this does is... Oh yeah, here's the charm check. The shard. If the hero carries the shard, then the range is higher. I don't need that. I don't need that. There's no randomness in this. So if there's a... Yeah, that makes sense. So how it works exactly is it takes the hero position. If you attack with the spear, that's bumping into an enemy. It takes the position of the hero. It adds the direction vector that you're pressing, and it gives me this position PT. That's a vector 2 of integers. And at that position, it checks if there's an entity, and then it attacks that entity. And what I do here is I add another one of these vectors to the position. So PT was where the enemy stands. I move it one further, so it's now behind the enemy. And then I check if there's an elevation change that would make an attack impossible. And then I get the see if there's something standing there at all, and if any of these, if both of these are okay, then I do a damage here. I just deal damage, I don't attack. So that's not what I want. I want an attack. So ET gets overridden. This is now the entity behind the one you're attacking. And I'll just straight up attack that one. And I don't care if that succeeds or not. I just attack it. And that should handle all the... so this is a nested way of putting damage numbers on the screen. So put word just puts a word on in the world at that position with color, etc. And then it takes the damage returned by this damage color, but I don't need that. Okay. And I can remove this. Hit second row. Okay. Let's test that. And I need, there's the spear. And what I did yesterday is I updated the AI for the ranged attackers. If they... okay, I mean, they're still pretty stupid, but they kind of try to chase you around obstacles now, which is pretty cool. Okay, let's look at the zombies. Well, I actually need 2 in a row. Hello? Okay, that's... Come on, okay. Okay, that doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? I think it's just that it returns here. Yeah. And I can... Well, do I want to return here? Probably. So this means if I don't deal damage to the first enemy, I won't even try to hit the second one. Let's remove that. Yeah. Let's try again. Maybe I'll build a cage. So that I can test this easier. I need just 2 monsters. Why isn't it working? Spear. Spear. Okay, let's go over it again. So it works up until here, but then this fails. Or I'm completely off. So let's do in-world printf debugging. Okay, it's not calling this. Oh, I'm not carrying a spear. I'm stupid. I'll have to pick up the spear. And it works. Okay. But those numbers were suspiciously close. Okay, then they're not. Maybe I should attack with one attack roll. No, that's fine. Okay, spear works. Doing a run right now, stuck at work, working an unexpected 16 hours, barely awake right now. Jesus. That sounds pretty horrible. But yeah, but good that you find the time to make a run. It's funny. Okay, so hammer. Do I need this code? No. Luckily we got the Steam Deck. Everyone must buy Rangedrifter on Steam Deck. I'll get one eventually. Because that, yeah, sounds pretty cool. To play the game on a handheld. Okay, if 0, so let's remove this and remove all of this. And then don't need this. So that's basically now the same code as the spear. Oh, that's okay. That's a bad bug. What this does is it checks if the weapon broke. Actually, that should happen here. Actually, I don't need the check. I don't need the thing. Okay, weird. So do the attack. And then... Wait, actually... Yeah, that's all wrong. Okay, I need the attack struct. Because I'll... So yeah, what it does, if you attack an enemy into a wall or an obstacle, you'll do double damage. That's the idea. And to make this double damage, I have to alter the attack struct. So let's do the same check here as I did here. Well, do I need to... There's a occupy function somewhere. I think it's in objects. Oh God, I changed all this. Changed this and now I can't remember what I called it. So is it access? Chase. No, it's a nav. Walk. Normal move. Cross. Pass. Returns 1 if entity can step onto or over entity at each. Oh god. I think that's what I want. But let's add if ET is null, turn 1, just for safety. And then let's export this. But I still need let's actually, let's don't do that. But let's just take returns 1 if entity can move onto tile. Well, that's actually what I want. Is there an entity size check? Pass. Okay. That's what I want. Okay. So look at the enemy you're bumping into. If that's null, then there's nothing to do. But then before hitting, look behind. And if the entity cannot cross into that tile, then it's blocked. And then do double damage. Okay. Should return. What? Nine, 6, 7. Okay. Let's test that. Do I have a hammer? Yeah. I'll need to change this, right? Don't like that. And oh yeah, I'll do that later. For now, does that robber run away? Okay, it's a zombie now. That looks like double damage to me. Maybe 3, 5, 4. Well, oh yeah, 5 was yellow. So 5 was a full hit. And then I got the 10. 8, 10. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's try 2 in a row. Still should do double damage. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That works. And then let's look at the axe. It's probably most complicated. Where is the axe? There it is. Okay. So same thing. I attack the entity in front. But now I'll have to have a lookup table. That would be the easiest, I think. Nice addition to make it so you flash red when low. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that would be cool. Okay, let's make a lookup table. Static int. And it's actually 4 by 3. And that is north, east, south, west. And what you attack is... Oh. Yeah, northeast, northwest. Where are the directions? Alright, that's just what you'd expect. So if I attack north, I want to attack northeast, north. Actually, let's go clockwise. Northeast, north. Clockwise. Okay. If I attack east, I want northeast, east, southeast. If I attack south, I want southeast, south, southwest. And if I attack west, I want southwest, west, north, west. Something like that. So this will actually be a loop. And let's throw in an assert. That the direction that's coming in from the axe attack is actually one of these. Assert di greater than equal north and less than greater, you know what I mean, west. think west is the highest. Yep. Okay, so that'll crash predictably instead of unpredictably. And what I do here is int I for I 0 eyes is then 4 plus plus. Let's take all of this. This turns into table di. So it looks up the direction. So first of all, it looks at the attack direction, which is, for example, east. And then it goes through northeast, east, southeast, gets all the positions. And that's actually 3. Not 4, because it goes through these 3. Then it gets the entity and it chops at it. That's a continue, and then that doesn't matter. Okay, and then I'll break the weapon, and this can all go. Okay, it looks pretty clean actually. Much cleaner than before. Anyways. Okay. I can test that with... Well, the question is... Should that hit... Should that work on non-enemy entities? Don't think so, actually. So I'd have to add a check for that. Let's just add a bunch of this. And yeah, that looks good. Yeah, should only work with enemies. 666. If it's a kind ET, it's not an enemy. And actually, yeah, that's bad. I have to check if it's not the center. So if I is not 2, that way around. If I is 2, that's wrong. If I is 1, so if it's north, east, southwest, the directions you can attack in, and it's not an enemy, then what? That's not working. I need to have a separate check in only that direction. Do I return 1 or 0? Return 0. So that can go. So if there's nothing to attack, I don't attack anything, but also wait, that's just stupid. Was I why wouldn't that work? Yeah, that's not two. Wait, if I hit a bush and there's an enemy next to it, I don't want this to proc. I only... Yeah, and do I want to destroy bushes with this attack? Also no. So what I need to do is I need to make the check. Actually, let's write this out. Is enemy proc? No proc. Then is proc. That doesn't make sense, but something like that. So I need to check here. First of all, if I... Yeah, that's... Let's only put in the non-obvious tiles because that's already set. Right here, the actual direction. And then always attack what's ahead. But if the thing that was hit is not an enemy, then just return. Don't do the procking. And then in the proc, do I need this assert? Let's keep it. And in the proc, only hit enemies. So, like that. And this needs to be just DI. Don't proc on non-enemies. Don't proc on props. That This should actually be type NPC because I want this to work on on animals type. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's that makes more sense. Okay. Let's see. It shouldn't proc on bushes now. Yeah, it doesn't. But it should proc on zombies, and it does. Let's try. Yeah, and it doesn't hit the bush. Why didn't that work? I'm not carrying the stupid axe. Okay. Seems to work. Nice. So lining up enemies in this shape is pretty hard, but if you do, you'll just mow them down. Which is pretty cool. Okay. Good, let's check that in. Export cross. Did I actually use that? I think so. Yeah, for the hammer. Okay. So let's see what I can do next. Um, um, those to-dos are not that helpful. Um, looking at my notes. So the remaining things I have to do before Friday are pretty involved. And that is, well, if I do them, could be too hasty. But what I want to try out is having the hero or the player choose one of the weapons choose one of the weapons at the start and then stick with it throughout the run. On the one hand, I've been working towards that, so it's kind of a missing piece. On the other hand, it's not having that still, or having the choice in weapons all the time kind of holds the game together right now. At least how it's in my mind. So this would be uncharted territory. And I have 2 days to bash that into shape. I mean, it just has to work pretty well. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can do that the week after, improve on it. And I can only add so much. So there will be many features not added that would make this more complete. But everything that I would add, like a upgrade system for the weapons, is not in the game right now at all. So there wouldn't be anything lost actually, except the fact that you're locked to one weapon. Yeah, it would actually make the game worse a bit if I don't have the upgrades. I don't think I can add them in 2 days. 2 days means today and tomorrow, because on Thursday I'll have to fix all the bugs I created and do some some other work that's needed unrelated to the weapons. So maybe let's try something different, something kind of related to the whole weapon revamp. And that is, let's look at the water. And let's go into the proc and the process function. Let's process all the tiles in the world. And actually, I think that checks TI. Yep. So if the tile is water, then oh god, I need to copy the well tiles when I do that for safety. Okay. So this proc function goes through all tiles everywhere And I say, if it's a water tile, then raise its elevation by 1. That removes all the line edges between water and the ground where they are 1 elevation level apart. So that you can then step directly next to a water tile. Like this. So yeah, the line is removed, and I just want to see if this creates any problems. So this is this kind of creates a problem here, but that's okay. I can just raise the boat. Let's do that. Okay, still doesn't want to. Oh, did I? Yeah, I put them in by hand. That makes sense. Okay. Let's go somewhere with water. Actually, yeah. Well, it makes it a bit harder. Jesus. A bit harder to see where you can go, but what this opens up is interactions with the water. So you can imagine monsters that can walk on water, or you can imagine maybe giant python sticking its head out, and when you get near, then it'll attack you. And yeah, yesterday I played around with the damages and health points, the entities, because you can now see when they're about to attack. It was pretty lame, so I had to make them a bit stronger. But this well, actually the problem was the not that you can see when the enemies attack, that slows you down considerably. So I upped the damage on both sides, kind of decreased the health, not really, tiny bit, so that it stays in a flow, that you're not bogged down with enemies that just won't die. But yeah, to keep it interesting, the enemies had to be stronger as well. So you have more information now, so you can avoid taking damage, I think, for the whole game. Well, almost. There could be some traps that you'd have to step into, but I'm looking into fixing that as well. But yeah, the game definitely plays different now. So you have to be a bit more focused. But yeah, actually all that changed is the visual information. So you could still run through like a maniac. Well, except, yeah, monsters are stronger. But yeah, what I have right now is probably too low in terms of health for the hero. Anyways, okay, water. I mean, I think that just works. I'd have to check the underground in a second. But maybe I should make it completely black so it's more obvious, but that, yeah, take away some of the feel of it. Okay, let's look at a dungeon. That's okay. Let's look at this one. So yeah, you can still fall in. I'm not sure, because the water is super flat right now. There's no depth to it. What if I don't render the ledges next to water at all? Because right now it's just the fact that the elevation is just one height apart. So if I decrease this again, this is what the proc function did. It just raised it by 1. But yeah, this is back to normal. But I could make it so that the lines and the edges are not created next to water. But that would mean those as well. Could be solved if I make the water black completely. But I don't think that's a good idea. Okay, why are the zombies so strong? Or am I just so weak? Great. Yeah, let's just keep it as is for now, but keep it in mind. Okay, so actually let me go to the bathroom real quick, be right back. And then I'll talk about the how to choose your weapon. Yeah, so how it'll probably work is that you'll land here, and then along this stretch I'll put the 3 weapons, and if you pick them up, there's probably maybe going to be a sentence explaining what it does, but probably not. That would be too annoying if you have to do this over and over. So you'll start with one weapon, yeah, that's actually a good idea. So 3 weapons, that's axe, spear and hammer. You'll have one in your inventory when you start, a random one, so you can just pick that. And the other 2, so all 3 will have a position right here. Maybe I'll widen this area, make it a bit larger. Not in terms of depth, so that you have to walk farther, but just in terms of width. Where I place all 3, not the one you have in your inventory, that gets removed, but then you can pick up one you want to choose. And if you pick it up, the one you're carrying is automatically dropped. So you can only ever have one. And with that, you then walk into the run. That's the idea. And I'm still working on the concept, but there will be upgrades that you can choose that take your weapon in one or the other direction, give it more abilities, and there will be more offhand weapons like the bow and the shield. For example, a torch or a horn. And there will be situations where you'll lose your weapon for a short period if you're not careful, or if you want to. I imagine there being switches that you have to activate if you want to get to optional content, just a room full of stuff. And while that switch is active, your weapon is gone. So you'd be unarmed. But that's also Also a question. Can you go in unarmed? Probably not. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. If I have these switches, then you need a weapon. So yeah, no. So weapon is required. Of course, the weapon won't have durability. It might get debuffed. It might get you might get disarmed, but it's basically your weapon, and it defines how you interact with the monsters in the world, because they'll all have different playstyles. So that's basically a class system without the classes. Which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, the only thing that is stopping me from adding this directly this week is that I need the updates. Otherwise, the update would be a downgrade. And I'm not 100% sure how to deliver the updates. Pretty sure that it's that it's something in the world that upgrades your weapon. Pretty sure that it's some form of etching and symbol. I'm pretty sure that there's a branch each time you do an upgrade. If you want to upgrade toward defensive playstyle or towards aggressive playstyle. So that's what I'm pretty sure about, but I'm not sure about it thematically. So how you encounter these symbols and in which cadence, of course. And I would need at least, well, I mean, I would need at least 3. No, I would 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would need 5 updates for it to make upgrades for it to make sense to include in the game. Maybe I can think of them today, and I solve the upgrade, how the upgrades are applied and where. If I can solve that today, then there's a chance I'll put it in, but yeah, what will also happen probably is that all the offhand items will have charges. So durability will get completely removed from the game, and the main hand can have debuffs, but not durability. The offhand items have charges, so I'll probably do away with the arrows as well, arrow finding, and you will be able to recharge the offhand items, like the shield. So if you do a shield bash, that costs 1 charge. And I'm not sure if I want to destroy the offhand if it's out of charges. That I mean, the alternative is that it's just useless until you fill it up again. But yeah, that goes hand in hand with the main hand, in that they complement each other when it comes to playstyle. So for example, the bow, of course, does a range attack, but the torch. Well, horn is an easier example. So it's a horn that they blow into that will fear enemies. Depending on what kind of a weapon do you have, that's for example with the axe, that's a pretty good escape, because with the axe you have to get into the action and you might get overwhelmed, and with the horn you can fear away enemies for a little bit at least. And then what is the other big construction site? Well, there's so many. These are the most pressing. Oh yeah, charms. Charms will get revamped and probably drop everywhere. I'm not sure what I'll do with the path stones, but they may have something to do with the weapon upgrades. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I mean, if I have all this concepted out, I would probably only need a day to implement it. But yeah, time is running out. I'm thinking about how, so not the offhands, that's too much, but the main hand. So I have 4 systems. That's the main hand, the etching system, the offhand system, and the recharge system. And I can only do main hand and etching till Friday, but that's fine. If I can. If I by chance make something that works perfectly well today and tomorrow. But yeah, I'll have to think about that more. And yeah, so I'll probably add another week of just gameplay updates after this one, instead of working on the next region. Yeah, that makes much more sense. I'm also testing if I should increase the run length, but I mean it's pretty long already. But now that the world is so much larger, I increased it by 50% just for testing. And yeah. I'll see how that goes. Just looking at my to-dos. Also been thinking about stealth. But the world would need patrolling enemies. Otherwise that just wouldn't make sense. But it's pretty easy to make the hero hide in bushes, because I had that before. So if you have a offhand item, maybe like a cloak or a scarf or something like that, that could make you hide in bushes and then skirt around enemies. But it wouldn't work well right now. Oh, and also, yeah, new tutorial. So I'll probably, until the 20th of August, next big update, I'll probably revamp the tutorializing completely and remove the help section, but pop up info texts in the game that are contextual. So if you walk up to a boulder, it says, hey, this is pushable, and stuff like that. Because that's much more maintainable. If I add a new feature, I can just add the trigger and the text, and that's it. And yeah, then I don't have to have this presentation that has a start and a middle and an ending and has to include everything. And sometimes it explains 3 things in one slide and nothing in the other. That's yeah, it's much harder to maintain, and also less useful. You can't immediately act upon the information you get. So that will probably happen. I might tie that into the theme, but maybe not. I'll have to see. But yeah, that's a jam-packed 5 weeks. But it's still doable. Okay, I have here 14th of August. That's 20th. 14th would be crazy. Okay, guys, that's it from me for today. I'll have to sit in silence and think about the game concept, the weapon concepts some more. And then I'll put in as much as I can until tomorrow. Yeah, so I'll be back tomorrow at 3 my time. That's CEST. Alright, guys, thanks for stopping by, and thank you for all the support, and I will see you with hopefully a better weapon system tomorrow. Alright, bye bye.